It was just after dinner when everything started to unravel. Not with an argument, not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a look, a brief moment, a fleeting second that changed everything. But I didn't realize it at the time. I had always thought of myself as a patient man, someone who could endure the little things, the silent frustrations that come with long-term relationships. But tonight, the weight of those little things crushed me in a way I never expected. It was my birthday. At least, it was supposed to be. And while the day had started like any other, something felt off. There was no excitement, no anticipation, no smiles. Just a quiet air between us that didn't seem to lift. I had asked for so little, just a peaceful evening, maybe a few words of appreciation. But it was already clear by noon that something wasn't right. I didn't want to admit it, but the signs were everywhere. She had barely acknowledged the day. At first, I thought she was just caught up in work, distracted by the thousand little things that always seemed to occupy her thoughts. But it didn't take long to realize the truth. Olivia, my wife, wasn't just distracted. She was shutting me out. I had made dinner. Nothing extravagant, but something thoughtful. Roasted chicken, vegetables, and a bottle of red wine I had been saving for a special occasion. A quiet dinner. I thought maybe it would bring us closer, remind us of the good times we had, the laughter, the warmth. Instead, she barely said a word. The whole evening felt like a slow suffocation. At first, I tried to dismiss it, tried to convince myself that I was overthinking it. But deep down, I felt it. There was a distance between us, an invisible wall I couldn't scale. She was there, but she wasn't. As we sat down at the table, the silence between us thickened. I wanted to say something, to break the tension, but I couldn't find the right words. Instead, I noticed the way she glanced at her phone every few minutes, the way she sighed without explanation, the way she avoided looking at me. And then, it happened. She put her fork down with a soft clink, her eyes drifting to the window. The look on her face wasn't one of anger, but of something worse. Disappointment? Resignation? I couldn't quite place it, but I could feel it like a weight on my chest. "I don't think I can do this anymore," she said, her voice low, almost as if she was speaking to herself. I blinked, unsure if I had heard her correctly. I hadn't been expecting this. Not tonight. Not after everything we'd been through. "Do what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding in my ears. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she reached for her wine glass, swirling it absent-mindedly. "This," she finally said. "Us. It's just not what I thought it would be." I couldn't understand her words. My mind raced, trying to catch up with the sudden turn the evening had taken. "What do you mean?" I asked again, the fear creeping into my voice despite myself. "We're fine, aren't we? We've been through worse than this." She looked at me then, her gaze not soft, but sharp. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think we are. I think we've just been pretending for a long time." Her words hit me like a slap, but it wasn't anger I felt. It was confusion. Hurt. She had said it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, like she was delivering a piece of news. But this wasn't just news. This was a declaration, a bombshell dropped right in front of me. I wanted to speak, but I didn't know how. My mouth was dry, my thoughts scattered. "Olivia, please," I managed, my voice shaking just a little. "What's going on? You're scaring me." She put down her glass and finally looked at me fully, her face unreadable. For a moment, I thought she was going to say something to reassure me, something to tell me this was just a misunderstanding. But instead, she said, "You never saw it, did you? You never saw how much I've been struggling." Struggling? I felt a lump form in my throat. I don't understand. Struggling with what? Her expression softened just a fraction. "With you. With us. With the life we built together." She paused, her lips trembling slightly. "I don't know who I am anymore, and I don't know if I want to be with someone who doesn't even see me." I was stunned. What was she talking about? How could she say that? How had we gone from everything being fine to this? The thought of losing her, of everything falling apart, was too much to process. She stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I need space," she said, her voice flat. "I'm sorry, but I just need to figure things out." I watched her walk away, my mind unable to catch up with what had just happened. The door to the bedroom slammed shut, leaving me alone with my thoughts, alone with the overwhelming fear that everything I had ever known was about to change. But even as the silence settled over me, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. That there were things I had missed, signs I had ignored, pieces of a puzzle I had never bothered to put together. Something was wrong, and I had no idea how deep it ran. It wasn't just the silence that night, it was the stillness. The kind of stillness that creeps into your bones, makes you feel like you're sinking into something you can't escape. I sat there for hours, unable to move, unable to think clearly. The words Olivia had said kept echoing in my head, a broken record I couldn't turn off. I don't think I can do this anymore. Those words, simple but lethal, replayed in my mind, over and over. She had left the room so quickly, leaving me behind to piece together something that felt like a puzzle with too many missing pieces. What had happened? Was this really about us? Or was it something deeper? I kept telling myself it wasn't real. That maybe she was just having a moment of doubt, or that the stress from work was getting to her. But deep down I knew. The look in her eyes, the emptiness, the resignation, it wasn't a temporary thing. This wasn't just a bad day or an off moment. This was a realization, a truth that had been bubbling under the surface for longer than I had cared to admit. I tried to reach out to her, but my messages went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. Hours passed, and there I was, sitting in the same chair, staring at my phone, hoping for some kind of response. Some sign that this was all just a mistake. But there was nothing. It wasn't until the next morning that I saw her again. She came into the living room, still in the clothes she had worn the day before, her hair a mess, eyes red-rimmed. She hadn't slept, and I could tell. There was a heaviness to her movements, a kind of exhaustion that had nothing to do with sleep. "I need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I stood up immediately, every nerve in my body on edge. "I need to understand what's happening, Olivia. You can't just drop that bomb on me and walk away." She sat down slowly, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I don't know how to explain it," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can fix this." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream at her, demand answers, but another part of me just wanted to hold her, to tell her it would be okay. But deep inside, I knew I couldn't fix something that had already been broken for a long time. "I've been so distant lately," she continued, avoiding my gaze. "I've been pulling away, and I couldn't even tell you why. It's not you, it's me. I've been lost for a long time." I felt a knot tighten in my chest. "Lost," I repeated, struggling to comprehend her words. "How could you be lost? We were fine, Olivia. We had everything." But she shook her head slowly. "No, we didn't. Not really. Not anymore." Her words hit harder than I expected. My mind raced to catch up, to put the pieces together. The endless work hours, the time she spent on her phone, the late nights she'd come home, distant, cold. I had chalked it up to stress, to routine. I had convinced myself that we were just going through a rough patch, that things would get better. But now, in the silence of the morning, I realized how much I had missed. "I don't know if I can love you the way I used to," she whispered, her voice cracking. "And I don't know if you can love me like you did before." It was as if the ground had been ripped out from under me. I stumbled back, not knowing how to respond. How could she say that? How could she say she didn't love me? But she wasn't done. "I've been seeing someone else," she finally admitted, her voice barely audible, as if the weight of her own confession was too much to bear. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did, and I don't know what to do anymore." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. My body went numb as I processed what she had just said. I could barely breathe, let alone think. It felt like the world was spinning, like I was drowning in a sea of disbelief. "Who?" I managed to choke out, the question hanging in the air like a poison. "Who is he?" Olivia's face twisted in pain, as if she didn't want to say it out loud. I don't want to hurt you more than I already have, but it's someone from work. He's been there for me when you weren't." I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, to make her feel the same pain I was feeling. But instead, I just stood there, silent, my heart breaking with each passing second. "Why didn't you tell me?" I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't we talk about this before it got this far?" She shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. "I don't know. I was scared. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to fix us. I didn't know what to say anymore. The woman I had married, the woman I had trusted with everything, had betrayed me in a way I couldn't even begin to understand. And now, I was left standing in the ruins of everything we had built together, unsure of who she was, unsure of who I was anymore. I don't know what hurt more, the fact that Olivia had been seeing someone else, or the way she looked at me as she said it. The sadness in her eyes wasn't the only thing that struck me. It was the emptiness. Like she had already checked out long before the words left her mouth. I don't know what to do anymore, she repeated, her voice breaking. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, but I couldn't keep pretending. I stood there, frozen, not sure what to say. My mind was racing, trying to piece together everything that had led up to this moment. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. The questions were there, burning in my chest, but I couldn't find the strength to ask them. Instead, I just stared at her, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved. Olivia's eyes flicked to the floor. I didn't want to hurt you, she said softly, as if that could somehow erase the damage she had done. I thought I could keep everything together, but I couldn't. It felt like the ground was crumbling beneath me. My whole life, everything I had worked for, everything I had believed in, was slipping through my fingers. And for the first time, I realized I didn't know who she was anymore. Who is he? I finally managed, my voice barely audible. Olivia hesitated, her lips trembling. His name is Ethan. He works in the same department as me. I didn't mean for it to happen, but he was there when I needed someone. He listened to me, and I don't know. Her words hung in the air like a fog, thick and suffocating. I don't understand, I said, my voice breaking. How could you do this to me? I didn't want to hurt you, she repeated, but the words felt hollow now. But I don't think I can keep living this lie. I'm not the person I was when we first met. I'm not the person I used to be. Her confession was like a punch to the gut, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of it. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that she had been lying to me for so long. She had been carrying this secret, this other life, while I had been none the wiser. I took a step back, trying to process everything. I needed time. I needed space. But she wasn't done. I don't want to hurt you anymore, Olivia said, her voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back. But the damage was done. The trust, the foundation of everything we had shattered. I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. I don't know what to do now, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. For a moment, Olivia didn't say anything. Then she stood up, walking toward me. Her eyes were filled with tears, but there was something else there too, something I couldn't quite place. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I never meant for it to go this far. But it had gone too far. And now, I was left with nothing but questions, with a heart full of anger and betrayal, and no idea what the next step would be. The next few days felt like a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. My mind kept replaying the same moments. The look in Olivia's eyes when she confessed, the coldness in her voice when she said she didn't love me the same way anymore. It was like my entire world had been upended, and I was left scrambling to figure out what had gone wrong. She tried to reach out, tried to talk to me, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, my heart would race, and I would quickly turn it over, too afraid of what she might say. I had never felt more alone in my life, but I couldn't keep avoiding it forever. I had to face her. So, one night, I finally agreed to meet her at a cafe down the street from our apartment. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for. Maybe an explanation, maybe closure. Or maybe I just needed to see her one last time before I walked away from everything we had. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a corner table, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. She looked different, fragile, almost. Her hair was messier than usual, and her eyes were puffy from crying. I almost didn't recognize her. Hey, I said quietly, sitting down across from her. She looked up at me, her face a mixture of relief and guilt. I'm glad you came, she said softly. I didn't know how to respond. The words I wanted to say were stuck in my throat. All I could do was look at her, trying to process everything that had happened, trying to figure out if there was any way to fix what had been broken. I've been thinking a lot, Olivia started, breaking the silence. About everything. About us. And I realized that I've been running away from the truth for a long time. I haven't been honest with you, with myself. I leaned in slightly, my eyes narrowing. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself to finally say the thing that had been eating away at her. There's more to it than just Ethan, she confessed. He's not the reason I pulled away. He wasn't even the first one. I felt a chill run down my spine. I had always thought Ethan was the cause of everything. The other man. The one who had torn us apart. But this was something I wasn't ready for. What do you mean? I asked again, this time my voice trembling with disbelief. Olivia looked down at her hands, avoiding my gaze. There's someone else. Someone before Ethan. Someone from years ago. And I've been hiding it. I thought I could bury it, but I can't anymore. The air in the cafe felt thick, suffocating, as I tried to process her words. Why didn't you tell me this before? I demanded. Why keep it a secret? You've been lying to me for years, Olivia. She shook her head slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I was scared. I thought if I told you, it would all fall apart. And it has. But the truth is, I've been running from the things I never wanted to face. From myself, from my past, from what I became after we got together. I sat back in my chair, stunned by the revelation. Everything I thought I knew about Olivia, everything I thought I understood about our relationship, was suddenly called into question. She wasn't just the woman I had married. She was someone with secrets, someone I couldn't fully understand. Who is he? I asked, my voice low, demanding to know the truth. She hesitated before answering. His name is Adam. He was someone I met before we even got together. We were close, but I ended it when I met you. I thought I could move on, but deep down I never really did. The words hit me like a slap. Adam, someone from her past? My mind reeled with the implications. If she had been hiding him for years, then how much more was there that I didn't know? Why now? I asked, feeling a knot tighten in my chest. Why bring this up now, when everything is already falling apart? I thought I could keep the past buried, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can't keep lying to you. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. I looked at her, my eyes cold. So, all these years, you've been living with this secret. And you've been with me. Like nothing happened? She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with shame. I thought I was protecting you. But in the end, I just hurt you more. I stood up suddenly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. I need to think, I said, my voice shaking. I couldn't sit here anymore, listening to her confessions, trying to make sense of it all. I had never felt so betrayed in my entire life. As I walked out of the cafe, the cool night air hit me like a slap. The streets were empty, and the only sound was the pounding of my own heart. I didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. I was drowning in a sea of lies, and there was no lifeline in sight. I didn't know how long I walked that night, but the hours blurred together as I tried to make sense of Olivia's revelations. I was shaking, my body trembling with anger and confusion. It felt like everything I had known was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't hold on to anything anymore. I found myself outside our apartment building, staring up at the windows. Everything felt foreign now, like a place I had no right to be. I wanted to go inside, to confront her, but I didn't know what I would say. How do you talk to someone who has been living with a ghost for so long? How do you face the person who has hidden pieces of themselves from you for years? I took a deep breath and headed back to the cafe, hoping she would still be there. I needed more answers. No, I deserved more answers. I couldn't keep letting her control the narrative, couldn't keep letting her pull me back in with half-truths and empty apologies. When I got to the cafe, she wasn't there. My heart sank, but I didn't know what I had expected. She had already given me her confession, already pulled the rug out from under me. She didn't know me anything more. But then, as I was about to turn away, I saw her. Olivia was standing in the doorway, her hands clenched at her sides, her eyes searching for me. She didn't look like the woman I had known. She looked lost. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely audible. I didn't want it to end like this. But I can't keep running anymore. I didn't know how to respond. Her words felt like a trap, like more smoke and mirrors meant to keep me in the dark. But deep down, I knew this was it. This was the moment where everything had to come out. What are you running from, Olivia? I demanded. What's the real reason you've been pushing me away? She hesitated before answering. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of facing what I did to you, to us. I felt a cold rush wash over me. What did you do? She stepped closer, her eyes brimming with tears. There's more, but I don't know how to tell you. I didn't know if I could take more. But I had to know. I needed to hear it from her, even if it destroyed me. The man I was with, Adam, he's not just some past fling. she said, her voice breaking. He's someone I've been in love with. For a long time. Those words, those terrible words, shattered whatever was left of the man I thought I was. She wasn't just confessing an affair. She was confessing that she had been holding on to someone else's memory, someone else's love, all while she was with me. I've never stopped loving him, she admitted, looking at me with a mixture of guilt and sorrow. I thought I could move on. I thought I could pretend, but I couldn't. I felt the floor give way beneath me. Every piece of my reality crumbled into dust. Why didn't you tell me this before? Why keep living this lie? I was afraid, she repeated. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of facing the truth. But I'm not the same person anymore. And I can't keep pretending that I am. The weight of her words hit me harder than anything else she had said. She wasn't just confessing to an affair. She was telling me she had been emotionally checked out long before I ever realized. And now, here I was, standing in front of the woman I had married, and all I could feel was emptiness. I don't know if I can do this anymore, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Olivia stepped forward, her hand reaching out, but I pulled back. No, I said, shaking my head. I don't think I can keep going through this. She looked like she was about to say something, but the words caught in her throat. I could see the desperation in her eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her anymore. The damage had been done, and there was no going back. I turned and walked away, not looking back, not needing to. As I stepped into the cold night air, I realized something that hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about survival. And I had to start living for myself again. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I tried to put everything into perspective, to make sense of the mess Olivia had left behind. But no matter how many times I replayed our conversations, the truth didn't get any easier to swallow. She had been living a double life, hiding pieces of herself from me for years, and I couldn't understand why. I couldn't even bring myself to go back to our apartment. Every inch of that place felt like it held a memory of her, of us, and I wasn't ready to face it. Instead, I stayed at a friend's apartment, just a few blocks away, trying to keep my mind from spiraling. But it wasn't enough. I hadn't spoken to Olivia in 3 days. I was drowning in my own thoughts, my own anger, and the silence was suffocating. It felt like everything was closing in on me, like I was being crushed by the weight of my own emotions. But still, there was this nagging part of me that wanted answers. Why had she done it? Why had she kept me in the dark for so long? I didn't have the strength to reach out to her, but I couldn't ignore the constant pull of unresolved questions. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the lies. Then, on the 4th day, I got a text from her. Just one sentence. We need to talk. My heart raced as I read the message. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but the same part of me that wanted answers was screaming to hear her side. So I agreed. We met at a park this time, a neutral ground. When I saw her, I didn't feel the rush of emotions I thought I would. There was no anger, no love, no desire to hold her. Just emptiness. I didn't want it to end like this, she started, her voice trembling. I crossed my arms and looked at her, waiting for the explanation I wasn't sure I was ready for. I never wanted to hurt you. I never thought it would go this far, she continued, her eyes pleading. But I've been so lost for so long. I didn't know how to find my way back. Her words didn't have the same weight they once did. I didn't know if it was the shock or the betrayal that had numbed me, but all I could feel was a cold distance between us. I don't know if you understand, she said softly, stepping closer. I've been hiding things from you for years because I didn't know how to be honest. I didn't know how to tell you about Adam, or Ethan, or about myself. I felt the familiar knot in my chest tighten. And now you want me to forgive you. She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. No, I don't expect that. I just wanted you to know that it wasn't you. It wasn't about you. It was me. I looked away, trying to compose myself. You don't get it, Olivia. You don't just tear someone's life apart and expect them to understand. It's not that easy. I know, she whispered. And I know I've lost you. But I couldn't keep pretending that I was happy when I wasn't. I thought I could fix it, but I was wrong. The pain in her voice almost made me feel sorry for her. But that wasn't what I needed. I needed the truth, the whole truth. Why did you stay with me all this time if you were so unhappy? I asked, my voice growing more urgent. She paused, looking down at her hands. I thought I could make it work. I thought if I just kept pushing forward, everything would get better. But I was just holding on to something that wasn't real anymore. I couldn't process it all. She had been living a lie for so long, and I had been right there, oblivious. I had been so caught up in my own world, thinking everything was fine, that I missed the signs. I don't know what you want from me now, I said, finally looking at her. You've shattered everything we built, and I'm not sure I can pick up the pieces. She nodded, tears streaking down her face. I understand. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. The apology, the words that should have meant something, felt empty. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. I didn't know who she was anymore. I turned to walk away, but before I could go, she called my name. Please, just know that I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love myself. The words echoed in my mind as I walked away from her. She may have loved me, but I couldn't let that be enough anymore. I couldn't keep pretending. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with myself anymore. Every part of my routine, every part of my life had been built around Olivia, and now I was completely lost. I tried to fill the emptiness by working late, hanging out with friends, but nothing seemed to distract me from the gnawing ache in my chest. One night, I was sitting on my couch, mindlessly flipping through channels, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Olivia. I saw a picture of us today. I don't think I can forget everything so easily. The words hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't heard from her in days, and I wasn't sure I was ready to face her again. But there was something in her message, something raw, that made me hesitate. I thought about ignoring it, pretending I never saw it, but instead, I found myself typing a response. Maybe it's better we both forget. It's over, Olivia. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed again. Please, can we meet? Just one more time. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go back to that place, back to the lies, the heartbreak. But there was a part of me that still wanted closure. So I agreed, though I knew it wouldn't be easy. We met in the same park we had talked before, the one where everything started to unravel. I had prepared myself for another emotional confrontation, but when I saw her, something felt different. She wasn't the same woman who had shattered my world weeks ago. There was no desperation in her eyes now. Instead, it was as if she had already resigned herself to the consequences of her actions. I don't want to waste your time, Olivia began, her voice quiet but steady. I just need to tell you one last thing. I sat down across from her, my arms crossed, bracing myself for whatever came next. After everything, after all the mistakes, I've realized something. I was always looking for something I didn't have the courage to face within myself. I wasn't running from you. I was running from the parts of me I couldn't accept. Her words hit me in ways I wasn't prepared for. Was she finally acknowledging the depth of her actions, or was this just another attempt at fixing what couldn't be fixed? I think, maybe I've been selfish, Olivia continued, tears welling up in her eyes. I've been so focused on my own pain that I didn't see how much I was hurting you. I nodded, trying to hold back the flood of emotions that were threatening to break through. You've hurt me more than you know. She looked down, guilt evident in her expression. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. For everything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her how much she had destroyed me, how much I had given, and how little I had received in return. But instead, I stayed quiet, letting the silence settle between us. For the first time, I realized that this wasn't about fixing things with her. This wasn't about mending the broken pieces of our relationship. It was about me, about learning how to move on, how to rebuild the life I had lost. I don't know what comes next, I finally said, but I can't keep living in the past. Olivia looked at me, her eyes filled with unshed tears. I understand. I needed you to know I never wanted to hurt you. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything I had just heard. Goodbye, Olivia. And with that, I walked away, feeling a strange sense of relief as I left her behind. It wasn't about closure anymore. It was about finding my own way forward. The days that followed were quieter. Not peaceful, exactly, but quieter. I spent time focusing on myself for the first time in years. I started running again, something I had abandoned long ago. I began seeing my friends more often, rediscovered old hobbies I had forgotten, and took long walks by myself, just breathing and thinking. The more time I spent on my own, the clearer things became. I had spent so much time blaming Olivia, blaming myself, that I had lost sight of who I was. But slowly, I started to find pieces of myself I had forgotten. I wasn't just someone's husband. I was me. It was hard at first. Every corner of the city reminded me of the life I thought I would have. But as time passed, the memories didn't sting as much. I began to feel a shift, a quiet confidence growing within me. I didn't need to hold on to the past anymore. It wasn't my fault that things fell apart. I couldn't control what happened, but I could control how I moved forward. One morning, a few months later, I woke up feeling different, stronger. I had an urge to reach out to my family, to reconnect with the people I had distanced myself from while wrapped up in Olivia's world. And so I did. I called my brother, Sam, and we talked for hours about everything and nothing. I realized how much I had missed that simple, easy connection. That evening, I went for a walk through the park again, the one where everything had changed. As I passed by, I saw a small group of people having a picnic. Laughter filled the air, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lonely. I didn't feel sad. I felt hopeful. The weight that had been on my chest for so long was finally starting to lift. And then, unexpectedly, I got a message. It was from Olivia. I know we've both moved on in our own ways, but I just wanted to say thank you for everything. I truly hope you find the happiness you deserve. For a moment, I just stared at the words. It was the last thing I expected. But as I read it again, I realized that I no longer felt the bitterness I had once held on to. In a way, I was glad for the closure, glad for the chance to heal and grow, even if it had been painful. I put the phone away and smiled to myself. I didn't need to reply. Her message wasn't about reopening old wounds. It was about peace. And I had found mine. The sun was setting as I walked out of the park. For the first time in a long time, I felt the future stretch before me, wide and full of possibilities. The road ahead wasn't easy, but it was mine to walk, and for the first time, I was ready. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew it would be okay. I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, and that was something to be proud of.